We are the laws of Yesodei Torah, the foundational laws of the Torah. That's where we are. And you have to excuse me, but we're going to skip chapter 4 today and go to chapter 5. Chapter 4 is a very challenging chapter. Ma'aseh Bereshit, works of creation. And somewhat esoteric, shall we say. Okay. Let in Liba, please. Thank you. Okay. The laws of Yesodei Torah, the foundational laws of the Torah, chapter 5, the entire house of Israel are commanded regarding the sanctification of God's great name. As it says in Leviticus, it's going to be in a couple of weeks in the Parsha Zemor, and I shall be sanctified amidst the children of Israel. Also, they are warned against desecrating his holy name, as the above verse states, and you shall not desecrate my holy name. What is implied? What does that mean? Should a non-Jew arise and force a Jew to violate one of the Torah commandments at the pain of death, he should violate the commandment rather than be killed. Because the verse says concerning the mitzvahs, and a man will perform and live by them. They're given so that you may live by them and not die because of them. So if you have to transgress because a non-Jew is forcing you, then you have to transgress the mitzvah, right? We're going to see there's a lot of, parameters to this law. This just building up on it. Right, so you should live them and not die by them. If a person dies rather than transgress, he's held accountable for his life. Right. Now, when does the above apply? Not so simple. With regard to other mitzvahs, with the exception of the worship of other gods, idolatry, forbidden sexual relations, adultery, and murder. However, with regard to these three sins, if one is ordered to transgress one of them or be killed, one should sacrifice his life rather than transgress, right? So you have to be killed rather than take someone else's life, commit idolatry or adultery. Right. When does the above apply? When the non-Jew desires his own personal benefit. For example, he forces a person to build a house or cook food for him on Shabbos. He rapes a woman or the like. So why is he doing it? He's doing it for his pleasure, right? That's why he's doing it, for his pleasure. However, if his intention is to solely to have him violate the mitzvah, the following rules apply. Right? So in other words, it's not that he's telling you to cook on Shabbos because he wants food, right? Or build, his home so he can have a home or a fortress, whatever, for his battle plans. So that's why he's telling you he's doing it for his benefit, right? But if his intention is that you should violate the mitzvah, cook because it's Shabbos, and I want you to violate Shabbos. If he is alone, this person, the Jew, and there are not 10 other Jews present, he should transgress and not sacrifice his life. However, if he forces him to transgress with the intention to violate a mitzvah in the presence of 10 Jews, he should sacrifice his life and not transgress. This applies even if the non-Jew intended merely that he violate only one of the Torah's mitzvahs. Right? It's only one mitzvah, not to violate all the Torah, right? Just told him to do one thing. Sorry, I gotta stretch my legs and I gotta get some. Okay. So he only. All, yeah, this applies. Even again, the intent was merely one mitzvah. Not that you should desecrate all of Judaism, right? Even one that you have to sacrifice. All the above distinctions apply only in times other than times of decree. No, again, a non-Jew stops you on the street on Shabbos, and he says, light my cigarette for me, or I'll kill you. And you're with your congregation or on the street. I I know it's your Sabbath. Light my cigarette. That's a violation in front of, right? It's only one mitzvah. And it's only one guy doing it. You still have to, right? If you were private, though, it was just you and that Anju says, I want you to violate your Sabbath, light my cigarette, or I'll kill you. So you light a cigarette because there's no public desecration. However, in that in a times of decree, when the wicked king like Nebuchadnezzar or the like will arise and issue decree against the Jews to nullify their faith, or one of the mitzvahs, one should sacrifice one's life rather than transgress any of the other mitzvahs, whether one is compelled to transgress amidst 10 Jews or one is compelled to transgress merely against amidst non-Jews. So if there's a decree, right, like the story of Hanukkah, right, that the Syrian Greeks didn't allow the Jews to do bris milah or whatever, then even if it's done privately or if it's done amongst non-Jews, right, and it's not desecration of God's name, you still have to be ready to give up your life. Why? Because it's a decree, right, against Judaism by a nation. Or not in the same nation, like, like yeah. If anyone about whom it is said, again, they're doing it against Judaism, right? As opposed to if you're doing it just for your benefit. If anyone about whom it is said, transgress and do not sacrifice your life, sacrifice his life and does not transgress, he will be accountable for his life. Right? So you got to be careful with these laws. You don't transgress don't give up your life when you're not supposed to. You'll be responsible for that. One hour about whom it says, sacrifice your life and do not transgress, sacrifices his life and sacrifices his life and does not transgress, he sanctifies God's name. Right? So when you do give up your life, when you're supposed to, then you sanctify God's name. It's called Kiddush Hashem in Hebrew. Kiddush, like to sanctify. If he does so in the presence of 10 Jews, he sanctifies God's name in public. Who did that? Daniel, the prophet, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, right? The 10 martyrs that we read about on Yom Kippur. Rabbi Akiva was one of them. These are those slain by the wicked kingdom about whom there is no higher level. In other words, greater achievement than giving up your life. Concerning them, it states, for your sake, we have been slain all day. We are viewed as sheep for the slaughter. Further, it says in King David's Psalms, gather unto me, my pious ones, those who have made a covenant with me by slaughter. Oh. When anyone about whom it is said, sanctify your life and do not transgress, instead of sacrificing transgresses instead of sacrifices his life, he desecrates God's name. So someone who was supposed to give up their lives doesn't, they desecrate God's name. If he does so in the presence of 10 Jews, he desecrates God's name in public, right? Much more serious. Nullifies the fulfillment of a positive commandment of sanctification of God's name and violates a negative commandment against the desecration of God's name. Nevertheless, since he was forced to transgress, he is not punished by lashing. You don't lash this person because he transgressed, right? In a case where there would be lashes when he did it, willingly, right? And needless to say, he's not executed by the court, even is forced to slay a person, right? He killed another person, right? Otherwise, he would have been killed. So you don't kill that person now. The punishment is lashes, execution are administered only to one who transgresses voluntarily, when the transgression is observed by witnesses and when a warning was given, right? That's the parameter for capital punishment. As it states, concerning one who gives his children to worship of Molech, I will turn my face against that person. The oral tradition teaches that we can infer that person and not the one who is forced to transgress. I will turn my face to that person, right? Meaning someone who willfully gave his child to idolatry. Molech was the name of an idolatry, right? So I will turn to that person, but not one who's forced. In other words, he did it willingly, but not to the person who is forced to transgress, who transgresses inadvertently, or who transgresses because of an error, right? If concerning the worship of false gods, which is the most serious of sins, a person who is forced to worship, not liable for chorus, nor needless to say for execution by the court, how much more so does the principle apply regarding to the other mitzvahs of the Torah, similar regarding forbidden sexual relations, and do not do anything to the maiden, right? So, yeah. One who could, however, escape and flee from under the power of a wicked king and fails to do so is like a dog who returns to lick his vomit. He's considered as one who worships false gods willingly, and he will be prevented from reaching the world to come and will descend to the lowest levels of Gehenna, right? Because he transgressed, who could flee. Okay, now we go into some very interesting parameters of this law of giving up now of that applies to when non-Jews, Gentiles, still a group of women, give us one of you to defile. If not, we will defile all of you. They should allow themselves to be defiled rather than give over a single Jewish soul to the Gentiles. Similar Gentiles told a group of Jews, give us one of you to kill. If not, we will kill all of you. They should allow themselves to be killed rather than give over a single soul to the non-Jews, right? Why is that? Because you giving over somebody is giving them the death sentence or giving them over to rape, right? You can't do that. What are you going to choose? What if you did a lottery and whoever came out, so no one's choosing? So, however, if the non-Jews single out a specific individual and say, give us so-and-so, or we'll kill all of you, different rules apply. If the person is obligated to die like Sheva ben Bichri, they may give him over to them. Initially, however, this instruction is not conveyed to them. If he is not obligated to die, they should allow themselves to be killed rather than give over a single soul to the non-Jews. Okay, man. Very interesting. There's a debate in the Talmud actually between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. And Reish Lakish says, "Don't give over." Reish Lakish says, "Give over." Rabbi Yochanan says, "Give over." If they're asking for a single person who is not have the death sentence upon them. So it's usually the laws by Rabbi Yochanan, and here it's not. It's interesting, the whole discussion. Halacha number 6. Just as these principles apply regarding being forced to transgress, they also apply regarding sickness. What does it imply? When a person becomes sick and is in danger of dying, if the physician say that his cure involves transgressing a given Torah prohibition, the physician's advice should be followed. When there is a danger to life, one may use any of the Torah prohibitions as a remedy, with the exception of worship of false gods, right? The 3 no-nos, the 3 complete, forbidden sexual relations and murder. Even there is a danger to life, one may not use them as a remedy. One transgressors use them as a remedy, the court may impose the appropriate punishment upon him. Right, so a person's sick. I think it's going to give the example over here. Here, let's see, number 7. What is the source that teaches that when a person in danger of life, that these sins should not be violated? Right, so we said you can't kill somebody because you're going to get killed if you don't kill that person, right? Can't do that. What's the source? Now that your life is in danger, so it says that you shouldn't violate these 3 sins. Your life is in danger out of sickness, right? And says, and you should love God, the Lord, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. The words with all your soul imply that even if he takes your soul, in other words, still do what God wants. With regard to killing a Jewish person to heal another person or to save a life and then compelling him, it is logical that the one person's life should not be sacrificed for another. Torah established an equation between forbidden sexual relations and murder. This matter is just like a case of a person who rises against his colleague and slays him. Right? So murder we get. But sexual relations is also similar. When does the above apply? When one may be healed using other prohibitions, only when one's life is in danger apply. When one uses them as a way which affords satisfaction, when one feeds a sick person insects or creepy animals or chametz or on Pesach, or when one is fed on Yom Kippur. So why would it be allowed? Someone's deathly ill and they need to eat these insects. You're not allowed to. Not kosher. But you could, because you're saving a life. Right? It's just not a problem. It's not one of the 3 forbidden. Completely forbidden, right? Then it's not a problem. When, however, the prohibitions, prohibited substances are used in a way that it does not grant satisfaction, one makes a bandage of compress of chametz on Pesach, or from orla, or one is given a bitter tasting substance mixed with forbidden foods to drink, since one's palatable palate derives no satisfaction, permitted even when no danger of life is involved. So, right, let's say it's Pesach, and you need to make a compress, and you need to have chametz. You're not allowed, but you're not allowed to eat it, but you're just using, right? Since you're not getting any pleasure from it, pleasure meaning a palatable pleasure, right? Then it's permitted even if there's not a danger to life involved. Exceptions to this leniency are kalaya kerem, mixtures of milk and meat. Deriving benefit from them is forbidden, even in a way that does not offer satisfaction. Right? Milk and meat is unique because the Torah says 3 times the prohibition, so you can't have any benefit from it. So even if you're sick, if you're deathly sick, then that's not a problem because there's only 3 things you can't do if you're deathly sick, right? Talking about if you're not so, you know, somewhat sick. Whenever a person becomes attracted to a woman, is lovesick to the extent that he is in danger of dying. Although physicians say that he has no remedy except engaging in sexual relations with her, he should be allowed to die rather than engage in sexual relations with her. This applies even if she's unmarried. They can. It's pretty, right? Talking no, it sounds like pretty crazy. Like what kind of case is that? And whatever. We're talking about the parameter of the law, right? That what's the big deal? She's not married, so it's a forbidden relationship because you're not married. I mean, if you got married, it's not a problem, right? But it's still a forbidden relation, and therefore, better you die. He is even not to be given instructions to speak to her in private behind the fence. Rather, he should die rather than be given instructions to speak to her behind the fence. These restrictions just says that Jewish women should be not regarded capriciously, and to prevent these matters from ultimately leading to promiscuity. Psh. He's just lovesick for her, and he just feels like he's gonna die. I gotta talk to her at least. You know, no, better die then. That's how precious a woman should be, you know, regarded and revered and not, she's a piece of meat. You just imagine all the advertising that there is that uses women in such a manner is totally, totally wrong. Yeah. Better the guy die. That's how that he shouldn't be aroused by a woman. That doesn't mean that, we're talking about, in other words, you're right. I just want to make sure we got that clear. The doctor's saying this is his only remedy. Now, how a doctor knows that is irrelevant, right? That's not the point over here. How could we're just giving the parameter of the law and what the ramification of this law is just very, very important, especially in Western culture, that on how women are regarded. I'm just playing that out. Halacha number 10, whoever consciously transgresses one of the mitzvahs related in the Torah without being forced to, in the spirit of derision, to arouse divine anger, desecrates God's name. Therefore, it states regarding such a taking an oath in vain, for you are desecrating the name of Lord, I am God. If he transgresses amidst 10 Jews, he desecrates God's name in public. Conversely, anyone who refrains from committing a sin or performs a mitzvah for no ulterior motive So yeah, some of us have committed a sin or performed mitzvah with no ulterior motive, neither out of fear or dread, nor to seek honor, but for the sake of the Creator. Blessed be He, as Joseph held himself back from the master's wife, sanctifies God's name. Last halacha, chapter 5. There are other deeds that are also included in the category of desecration of God's name. Right? This chapter was all about desecrating God's name, right? So now there's other things. If performed by a person of a great Torah stature who is renowned for his piety, deeds which, although they are not transgressions, will cause people to speak despairingly of him. These also constitute desecration of God's name. You don't have to give up your life, but you know, for example, a person who purchases merchandise and does not pay for it immediately, although he possesses the money, and thus the sellers demand payment, and he pushes them off. Right? That's one. A person who jests immoderately, right? Or eats and drinks near or among common people. I'm talking about, great people like the Rebbe. Or whose conduct with other people is not gentle, and he does not receive them in a favorable countenance, but rather contests with them and vents his anger, and the like. Everything depends on the stature of the sage, extent to which one must be careful of themselves and go beyond the measure of the law depends on the level of Torah stature. The converse is also true. When a sage is stringent with himself, speaking pleasantly with others, his social conduct is attractive to others. He receives them pleasantly. He is humbled by them and does not humble them in return. He honors them, even though they disrespect him. He does business faithfully and does not frequently accept the hospitality of common people or sit with them. Right? Does not frequently accept the hospitality of the common people and sit with them. And at all times, he is seen only studying Torah, wrapped in tzitzis, crowned with tefillin, and carrying out all his deeds beyond the measure of the law, provided he does not separate too far from normal living and thus become forlorn, to the extent that all praise him, love him, and find his deeds attractive. Such a person sanctifies God's name. The verse says in Isaiah, and he said to me, Israel, you are my servant, in whom I will be glorified. It refers to him. Next chapter is about God's name and destroying God's name. Let's do that on your own. All right. Thank you, folks.